Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Siheyuan. Applying for 5 guarantees. I report enemy spies traveling through the courtyard. Yang Heping, due to his suspicion of the identity of the deaf old lady, was so oppressed that his family was driven to Beiping. As a result, Yang Heping went to the battlefield. A few years later, Yang Heping returned and became the street director. As a result, the end of the deaf old lady began, with accomplices Yi Zhonghai and the Jia family trembling. Apply for the 5 guarantees household. Sorry, I suspect you are an enemy spy. Catch all the animals. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 01. Return to hometown with honor, horrified by birds and beasts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the train. Yang Heping looked out the train window. In the 1960s in China, the railway tracks were desolate and simple on both sides. The people inside the carriage are crowded, like buns in a steamer. The smell in the air is very complex. It's hard to say whether it's the smell of stinky feet, sweaty sourness, or spoiled steamed buns. Smelling it once will definitely leave a deep impression. Dad, when will we get home? Yang Heping held a little girl in his arms. Yang Heping's thin and small body, with slightly withered yellow hair, made her heart ache. The little girl Zhang was the daughter of her comrade in arms. Her comrade sacrificed herself with honor and entrusted Zhang to him before her death. He also went from a single youth to a single father. Almost, cross another bridge and you'll see a big city, and you'll be home. Yang Heping took out a dried jujube and gave it to Siheyuan. Looking into the distance. Yang Heping was lost in thought. He made countless contributions during his 5 years in the military. Half a year ago, he was on an important mission to save a big shot in a desperate situation. He was also seriously injured and had to retire due to his injury. The prominent scar on the forehead is a commemoration of the recovery from a serious injury. Dad, you eat. Siheyuan took out the jujube pit and divided the red date into 2 pieces, one big and one small. The larger piece was handed to Yang Heping's mouth. Zhang is so good. Dad doesn't want to eat anything yet. You can eat it. Yang Heping touched little Yueya's hair. Too thin, severe malnutrition. Returning to the 49th city, we need to make up for Zhang well. We cannot let down our comrade's dying orphan. He treats the obedient Zhang as his daughter. Suddenly. The crowd was in chaos. Give me back the money and tickets, that's our family's 1-month survival guarantee. If you steal them, how will our family survive? A girl of 18 or 19 years old, crying uncontrollably and torn with a middle-aged man. Let go, if you don't let go, I'll stab you to death. The man drew a short knife. Everyone was in a panic, and in the crowded carriage without any gaps, a magical small piece of empty space was left, leaving only the girl and the man. Dad, is that person a thief? Siheyuan stood in her seat, nervously grabbing Yang Heping with her small hand. It's a thief, Yang Heping frowned slightly. The thief is a bad person. He bullied his sister, and her sister cried. Siheyuan was indignant. Yes, thieves are bad people. Is it okay to see Dad catch thieves? Yang Heping also couldn't stand the man's arrogant behavior of turning theft into robbery. Okay, catch the thief. Siheyuan was a little excited. Yang Heping picked up the enamel teapot on the small table. There was still some water inside, and he drank it in one gulp. Aim at the thief and throw the enamel teapot over. Passing through the gaps between people and accurately hitting the thief's head, the thief fell in response. Be decisive. Accurate. Strike the enemy with one strike. Everyone didn't react for a moment. What happened? Across from Yang Heping sat a young woman in her early 20s, who stared at him dumbfounded as she watched Yang Heping catch a thief. "Comrade, you're so amazing." The young woman reacted. "My dad is the most amazing." Little Yueya was very proud. At this point, many talents have reacted. Rushing up is like a beating. Thieves from the 1960s were easily beaten up when caught. As long as it's not killed, no one will hold it accountable. "Thank you so much." The girl who was robbed came over to express her gratitude. "You don't need to be polite." Yang Heping reached out to take the enamel teapot, which was not broken but only chipped off a bit of paint. "The train has arrived at the station." Yang Heping left the station with a bag in one hand and a small moon bud in the other. "Time flies so fast, I've been away from the 49 cities for 5 years. Yang Heping walked on the street, looking at the slogans on the wall and the simple crowd rushing by, couldn't help but let out a sigh of emotion. Returning to the familiar street and seeing the familiar front door of the Red Star courtyard, Yang Heping's eyes flashed with a strong hatred. "I'm back, deaf old lady. Are you ready to pay the price?" He is not a person of this era, he is a traveler. Maternal fetal crossing. He almost went crazy when he figured out how to travel to the courtyard full of emotions. This drama is so damaging. He almost smashed his computer while watching it. The vampire Qin Huairu almost stunned the queen. A hypocrite with a human face and a beast heart. Official fan Lu Haizhong believes in filial piety under the stick. Poor strategist Yan Fugue, the catchphrase is that if you don't eat or wear, you won't be poor. If you don't plan, you will suffer poverty. Big injustice breeds foolishness, addicted to the routine of Qin Huairu and unable to extricate oneself. Little Bisu Damao has been busy all his life, moving from one bed to another without leaving a seed of life. The wealthy daughter Lu Xiaoyi was also the only person who had a favorable impression on Yang Heping, and the only person with relatively normal values. Unfortunately, her fate was unfortunate. Of course. What impressed him the most was the deaf old lady, because she was a mortal enemy. Never give up or die. Yang, are you Yang Heping? As soon as Yang Heping arrived at the door, he saw a thin man with gray hair, wearing a pair of glasses, and his left leg was broken and glued with tape. "It's me." Yang Heping recognized the man, the third of the 3 stewards in the courtyard, Yan Fugue. Yang Heping stepped into the hospital. "It's broken, it's going to be a big deal," Yan Fugue wiped the cold sweat from his head. "What are you muttering about?" The third ant walked over. "Do you still remember Yang Heping?" He came back with a scar on his forehead. He looked at me and I was so scared that I couldn't speak. This kid is even more ferocious than before. Yan Fugue had lingering palpitations in his heart. Zhongyuaner. A group of aunties gathered together to chat. There was only one chubby man holding a soul and an awl in his hand, seemingly trying to fit the soul, but he didn't make a single stitch. "You don't know, my great-grandson Bang Ji has been smart since childhood. No matter what, one can teach and one can master. Hang Dama is proud. Jia Zhang, do you still want to have some face? Stick memes are a bit clever, but they don't use them in the right place. I think you need to take good care of him." Jia Zhang's bad behavior caused a siege from everyone. Yang. A panicked ant pointed behind Jia Zhang's back. "What kind of sheep is it? I haven't seen a live sheep in years." Jia Zhang turned her head and saw Yang Heping enter the courtyard. Dong. Jia Zhang's expression instantly froze. When she regained her senses, she was so busy with her hands and feet that she wanted to stand up. The horse overturned, and the person fell to the ground with all 5 bodies facing upwards. "Dad, why did she fall? Do you think he looks like a little turtle has overturned?" Xiao Yueya held Yang Heping's hand and was amused when she saw Jia Zhang's embarrassed appearance on the ground. Oh no, things are not going well anymore. Little bastard Yang Heping has returned. Jia Zhang struggled to turn over, almost gaining weight into a ball. For her, flipping over after falling was also a relatively difficult action. The piercing scream spread throughout the entire courtyard. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 02. Fan Fei Jia Zhangshi, Kicking Jia Dongxu. You are listening at novel full.audio. The shouting of Jia Zhang made the courtyard boil. Did the ruthless Yang Heping come back? Who else could make Jia Zhang so frightened besides him? Alright now, the ruthless Yang Heping has returned, and the courtyard is not calm anymore. He caused a complete uproar in the courtyard back then. The people in the courtyard rushed to the middle courtyard to watch the excitement. The backyard of a courtyard house. The deaf old lady with snow-white hair was sunbathing with an elderly woman in the courtyard. Yang Heping has returned. The deaf old lady's hand trembled and her cane fell to the ground. How did this bastard come back? Why didn't he die on the battlefield? The deaf old lady's face darkened, and a sinister expression flashed in her eyes. The smile on Aunt Yi's face also disappeared. She had some understanding of the matter between Yang Heping and the deaf old lady. It was like a deep blood feud. Yang Heping returned. Did he come back for revenge? Quickly, everyone gathered in the courtyard. Yang Heping looked at everyone. 5 years have passed, and the animals have not changed much. The first thing I felt was silly Zhu. He lived in the courtyard and arrived right after leaving. He looked old before he even got old, and there hasn't been any change in 5 years. Next is Jia Dongxu. With a thin physique and a pale face, it looks like a short-lived ghost. There is a woman beside him, with a plump figure and a pretty face, who can definitely beat him in terms of appearance and figure. She is the beauty representative of the quadrangle, the vampire Qin Huairu. Silly Zhu was willing to be sucked by her, but not only because of her skillful methods, but also because of her appearance, which was a major factor that made Silly Zhu addicted to it. Afterwards, Yi Zhonghai and others were all startled by Jia Zhang's scream and rushed to the courtyard, surrounding Yang Heping and his daughter. Dad! Xiao Yueya had never seen such a big battle before, holding Yang Heping's leg and feeling a bit scared. Yang Heping bent down to pick her up. In Yang Heping's arms, little Yueya was not afraid. When she was suffering at home, it was Yang Heping who descended from the sky, gave her delicious food, made her dress warmly, and even agreed to call her dad. In her mind, Yang Heping is the most trustworthy person. As long as she is in Yang Heping's arms, she is not afraid of anything. Look at the big scar on Yang Heping's forehead, it's so scary. It must be fighting against the enemy on the battlefield, leaving behind the enemy. Yang Heping was originally a ruthless person, and after fighting on the battlefield for so many years, he must have been even more ruthless, right? Huh, it's interesting now. Silly Zhu is the god of war in the courtyard. Now that Yang Heping has returned, who can fight better between the two of them? Nonsense, of course it's Yang Heping. He came down from the battlefield of life and death, and a fool is just playing around. The crowd was in a frenzy of discussion. Look at Yang Heping, and then look at Silly Zhu. In terms of body shape, Yang Heping has a slender figure and looks very pleasing to the eye. Stupid and rough, he looks like a reckless man. In terms of appearance, Yang Heping has thick eyebrows and big eyes. If he ignores the scar on his forehead, he is definitely a mentally challenged young man. Stupid. It can be described in just one word, aging before aging. There's no way to compare. Humph, I can't beat him. Do you think he's as thick as my arm? The silly pig is not convinced. He is the chef, tossing spoons every day, and his arms are more powerful than ordinary people. He provocatively rolls up his sleeves to reveal his thick arms. That's enough. Make way, I want to go home. Young Heping spoke coldly. The sound was not loud, but it emitted a murderous aura. In an instant, everyone felt a chill and coincidentally shut up. Young Heping nodded in satisfaction, picked up her bag, picked up Siheyuan, and walked towards the backyard. He was a neighbor of his great enemy, the deaf old lady. Didn't Young Heping join the army? How did he come back? Dongxu regained his senses and muttered angrily. I think he must have become a deserter. And brought back a little girl. Do you think she's an illegitimate daughter? He must have been promiscuous about sexual relationships and couldn't hide it. The army is going to punish him, and he's afraid of eating peanuts and running back. Do you think so? A hint of malice flashed in Zhang's eyes. She fell to the ground just now, looking so embarrassed with all her back and forth. Siheyuan also said that she was like a turtle. She hated both of them and went to hell to pick Young Heping. If the deserter's hat is fastened, Young Heping will die. Bang! Young Heping released the bag in his hand and asked Siheyuan to close her eyes. He walked 2 steps to Zhang's face, and in her frightened eyes, he slapped her and 2 big yellow teeth flew out of Zhang's mouth. Mind your mouth. Don't you know that illness comes from the mouth and misfortune comes from the mouth? Young Heping's cold warning. Glancing at everyone. Everyone instinctively took a step back. Undoubtedly, Young Heping is a ruthless person, just as fierce as 5 years ago, no, even more so. Killed. You all come and take a look. Little bastard Young Heping is going to kill and silence. When Zhang was beaten, she was blinded and didn't react for a while. It wasn't until there was a burning pain on her face that she realized it and sat down on the ground, slapping her thighs and crying loudly. Dong! Young Heping kicked out with 1 kick. Zhang rolled all the way and collided with a wall more than 3 meters away. The crowd who saw this scene took another step back. It was really ruthless. How refreshing. Zhang's mischievous behavior has offended many people. Young Heping attacked her, and no one spoke out for her grievances. Zhang should have been beaten. You all listen carefully. I'm not a deserter, I'm returning from the military. This is my daughter Yang Xiaoya, not an illegitimate daughter. Whoever dares to spread rumors again will end up with Zhang. If he splashes dirty water on me, he will be beaten to death for nothing. Seeing that Zhang was blinded, he dared not act recklessly for a moment. Young Heping announced loudly. Yang, if you dare to hit my mother, I'll fight with you. Dongxu finally realized that he knew he couldn't beat Young Heping. He saw the broom standing by the wall, which was made of small bamboo bundles. He grabbed it and headed straight for Young Heping. Young Heping is unlucky now. How could he get beaten up a few times with such a big broom? That's not necessarily true. Don't forget, before Young Heping joined the army 5 years ago, he could hang anyone in the courtyard. When everyone is discussing. Young Heping took action, protecting Siheyuan with both hands to prevent him from being affected. Then, he kicked Dongxu away with a side kick. The broom in Sudong's hand was thrown high by him. When he fell to the ground, the broom fell and the end hit him in the face. The dull collision sound made everyone unable to bear to watch. Wouldn't this make Dongxu disfigured? Did I give you face? Zhang is not sensible, are you also not sensible? This kick is a lesson for you. Remember, you have to keep your mouth shut and don't label yourself recklessly, otherwise I will make you regret it for life next time. Young Heping's words made everyone's scalp tingle. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 03. Yi Zhonghai pulls the Skew frame and attacks him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Silence. The people in the courtyard were all frightened by young Heping's strong return. Zhang, are you afraid? Dad didn't scare you just now, did he? Young Heping, with a cold face, suddenly changed into a gentle smile. Everyone almost dodged to their waist. Is this still young Heping? Just now, it was the god of war who killed all directions, instantly transforming into a loving father. This seamless connection is also too powerful, isn't it? Xiao Yueya is not afraid. Xiao Yueya watched her father beat up the bad guys. Xiao Yueya said in a cute voice. Young Heping let out a sigh in his heart. He was really afraid of scaring little Yueya. He only spent a week with Zhang, but he regarded Zhang as a part of his life and became his daughter from now on. Xiao Yueya is so brave. Come on, Dad rewards you. Young Heping took out another dried jujube. Dad is so kind. Little Yueya kissed young Heping's face. A scene of father's kindness and daughter's filial piety. Let everyone rub their eyes fiercely. Is this still the ruthless young Heping? The children looked envious. In the 1960s, there was a shortage of supplies, so where were there any snacks? Melon seeds and peanuts can only be eaten during festivals, and the dried dates brought out by young Heping make them swallow their saliva one by one. Dongxu, how are you doing, Dongxu? Yi Zhonghai finally reacted and rushed to Jia Dongxu's side, helping him up. Jia Dongxu is his disciple and one of his key candidates for elderly care, but he can't just be beaten up like this. Master, I have a stomachache and can't catch my breath. Jia Dongxu's stomach was tumultuous, like a knife poking around in his stomach. Young Heping, you are so lawless. How could you hit someone casually? Yi Zhonghai let out a sigh. It seemed that Jia Dongxu was not a big deal. Lao Jia, you left too early. Even cats and dogs dare to bully our orphans and widows. Come back tonight and take a look. Bring young Heping, this little beast, to accompany you. Jia Zhang also regained her senses and saw Yi Zhonghai, giving her confidence again. Everyone was speechless for a moment. The undead summoner has been launched again. Jia Zhang, please shut up for me. If you summon Lao Jia again, I will go to the street office to solve it. I will report you for practicing feudal superstition, which is a remnant of feudalism. I will let you live in a cowshed. Young Heping warns. Gah. Jia Zhang felt like she was choked on, instantly silent. She looked at young Heping in horror. She didn't want to live in a cowshed. The cowshed is filled with a foul odor all year round. Mosquitoes cover the sky and earth in summer, which can suck up human blood. The harsh winter wind can freeze people into popsicles. Just thinking about it makes me shiver. Young Heping noticed a strange phenomenon. When Jia Zhang was scolded by him and left speechless, a hint of pleasure flashed in Qin Huiru's eyes. Is Jia Zhang feeling happy when she's eating flat? Young Heping was puzzled for a moment and quickly figured it out. At Jia's house. Jia Zhang looked down on Qin Huiru and thought she was a loser. He didn't let her eat enough or dress warmly, and Qin Huiru didn't blame her for not having any resentment. Her reaction at this moment is very normal. Yi Zhonghai, are you not blind with old age? You've been watching from the side just now. Why did I hit him? Aren't you sure? I see you're deliberately pretending to be confused and coming out to pull a show. Over the years, you've been doing this kind of thing a lot, haven't you? I don't think you're an old man, you're a dog raised by the Jia family. When something happens to the Jia family, you come out and bite people. Jia Zhang shut up, while Yang Heping focused on facing Yi Zhonghai. Before he could finish speaking, the laughter drowned out his voice. They all live in a courtyard house, who doesn't know who? Many people understand the unethical things that Yi Zhonghai has done, but they are afraid of being seen through without saying anything. Yi Zhonghai's face turned pale with iron. Do you want to be a master of a courtyard house or a dog of the Jia family? Think carefully. If you don't want to be an old man, just get out of here. Yang Heping continues. Yi Zhonghai opened his mouth but didn't say a word. Everyone in the courtyard saw what happened just now. Which is right or wrong, everyone has a scale in their hearts. He can favor the Jia family, but he cannot go too far. Zhang labeled Yang Heping as a deserter and pitted him to death. How can he be biased? Well said. The old man is just too biased, favoring the Jia family and the foolish pillar. I have been beaten by silly Zhu so many times, and he has never punished him. A large long face squeezed into the crowd, with 2 mustaches. His facial features are very obvious. As long as I have seen him once, I will never forget him for a long time. Su Dumao only knows how to gather honey and not lay eggs. Yang Heping was a bit surprised. Why didn't he see the deaf old lady? Won't you die? He came back to seek revenge. The deaf old lady is dead. Who does he seek revenge from? Su Dumao, do you owe a fight? Silly Zhu spoke. Su Dumao hesitated for a second and dared not speak. Yang Heping, you have returned and are a part of the courtyard house. We are a united and friendly courtyard house, and you cannot act recklessly like before. Zhang is also your elder, no matter what. Yi Zhonghai has started a moral kidnapping. Shut up. Zhang is the daughter-in-law of the Jia family, surnamed Zhang. Our Yang family's surname is Yang. Our Yang family has no habit of misidentifying our elders. If you have such a hobby, I can help. Go to the street and find a few middle-aged and 80s people to help you have more ancestors. Would you be very happy? Yang Heping interrupted his words. Puff. Someone just laughed and burst out. Yang Heping's words are too damaging. Did anyone casually search for their ancestors on the street? How many more are we looking for? Even silly Zhu and Jia Dongxu couldn't resist. Lu Haizhong and Yan Fugue in the crowd did not speak up. The 3 masters of a courtyard house often engage in intrigue and conflict. Seeing Yi Zhonghai being scolded, they were extremely happy in their hearts. Of course, they didn't have the heart to interrupt and cheered Yang Heping in their hearts. Yi Zhonghai gritted his teeth and glared fiercely at Yang Heping, provoking his authority as a freshman. Outside the crowd. At the corner of the wall, there are 2 people hidden, one is a deaf old lady and the other is an elderly woman, both of whom have unpleasant faces. Yang Heping, this little beast, has been out for 5 years and has gained skills. 5 years ago, he was only ruthless, like a silly pillar, not very clever and easy to deal with. It's different now. It's turned into a little fox, fierce and cunning. If we want to deal with him, we'll have to put in more effort. The deaf old lady knows very well. There is a deep hatred between her and Yang Heping, and the conflict cannot be resolved. One side can only subdue the other or make it disappear. Yang Heping, you're too disrespectful. Yi Zhonghai's face turned pale and his fingers trembled. Yang Heping, please shut up for me. When facing an old man, you should maintain enough respect. How can you talk to an old man with this attitude? Silly Zhu stood up and frowned angrily at Yang Heping. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 04. Beating Silly Pillar, Yi Zhonghai marries Zhang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you want to help Yi Zhonghai stand out? Yang Heping looked coldly at Silly Zhu. I'll just come out and say a fair word. Grandpa is your elder, what's wrong with you? Silly Zhu angrily questioned. Stop it. I have said that I have no habit of misidentifying my elders. Yi Zhonghai is not my elder either. If you have it, I can help you find a few elders like I did for Yi Zhonghai. Yi Zhonghai is quite old and it's not easy to find elders. If you want to try your luck on the street, you're different. I'll find a few on site for you. Do you want to become an elder for silly Zhu? How many older people are here? Young Heping interrupted silly Zhu and faced the bustling crowd. You shut up, then you have the habit of misidentifying your elders. Silly Zhu is in a hurry. There are more than 10 people in the crowd who are older than him. What if they really step forward? My surname is Yang, I didn't expect you to go out for 5 years. You haven't learned anything else, but you've learned to be sharp and sharp. I see you're just a deserter. The little girl is also abnormal. Is it like Zhang said, it's your illegitimate daughter. Silly Pillar points to the small moon bud. Pop. Young Heping moved. He put down Zhaya, took a step in front of Silly Pillar, slapped her head and face, and with tremendous force, Silly Pillar turned in place 3 times. Silly Pillar just stood firm. Young Heping is another punch. Silly Zhu took 3 steps back and sat down on the ground, coughing violently. Everyone was stunned. Is this still the Silly Pillar of the war god in the courtyard? Why doesn't he have any resistance ability in front of Young Heping? Cough, Young Heping, this is a surprise attack, not really a skill. Silly Zhu took a breath and stubbornly refused to admit his failure. Okay, don't say I didn't give you a chance. Come on, I'll let you take the initiative this time. Young Heping stood still, hooking his fingers at the Silly Pillar. Not very lethal, extremely insulting. Silly Zhu's face turned red at that time. He felt uneasy in his heart. He was very clear that Young Heping had just made a move, and it was in front of him. It's a bit sudden, but it can't be considered a surprise attack. What are you hesitating about? Are you afraid? If you're afraid, just say it directly. I'm very kind and disdainful of taking action against the weak. Young Heping decided to teach Silly Zhu a lesson. Silly Zhu, Yi Zhonghai, and the deaf old lady are a whole. Young Heping wants to seek revenge against the deaf old lady, and Silly Zhu will definitely not stand idly by. Give him a beating first and charge some interest first. Even silly pillars have moments of fear. Nonsense, he can bully us. When faced with the ruthless Young Heping, he's just trash. You deserve it. How dare he bully others in the future? People who have been bullied by silly pillars are constantly mocking and mocking. Silly Zhu heard it and his teeth clenched loudly. In front of everyone's eyes, no matter what, he had to fight hard, grit his teeth and stomp his feet, and charge towards Young Heping. Young Heping sneered. Side up. Ba ji quan tai shan fu. Attack. The silly pillar flew out on the spot, rolled all the way to over 10 meters after landing, and only stopped with a thud when it hit the courtyard wall. Everyone was foolish. There is no noise at all. Beat the person away. Wow. Silly Zhu vomited blood. Everyone looked at Young Heping again, with a look of panic in their eyes. 5 years ago, Young Heping was ruthless and capable of fighting, but unlike today's Young Heping, who foolishly beat the god of war in the courtyard and vomited blood with just one move. Young Heping walked over step by step. He grabbed onto the clothes on Silly Pillar's chest and dragged him back, leaving a long mark on the ground. Silly Zhu is clear-headed, but he has no strength to lift. Young Heping came to Yi Zhonghai. Yi Zhonghai instinctively took a step back, his expression panicked. He was good at moral kidnapping, skilled in verbal skills, but not good at fighting. I didn't want to hit you again, what are you afraid of? I'll leave it to you, silly pillar. Look, there's not a drop of hair. Remember, you are his elder and should do a good job in his education. You need to make him understand what can be said and what cannot be said, and some words are meant to be beaten. After Young Heping finished speaking, he released his hand holding the silly pillar. Silly pillar was thrown to the ground like this. You're just too decent. Yi Zhonghai is crazy about roast. Is this not a hair missing? This is all vomiting blood. Doesn't it sound like something? Did I beat you up too, just like words? Yang Heping took a step forward. Yi Zhonghai immediately took a step back. He forgot that before Zhang could get up, he sat not far behind him and stepped on his hand, causing Zhang to scream in agony. The screams were too sudden. Yi Zhonghai was frightened and trembled before falling down. Smashing on Zhang's body, he let out a loud scream. Yi Zhonghai wanted to get started as soon as possible and pushed his hand down. He was negligent. He was not on the ground, it was the old fat woman Zhang. Zhang felt taken advantage and waved his hand, slapping Yi Zhonghai and leaving a clear slap mark on his face. She covered her chest with an expression of being taken advantage of. Yi Zhonghai was knocked over and hit the foolish pillar again. Silly Zhu let out a scream. Yang Heping didn't expect that just taking one step forward would have such a magical effect. No one expected it either. Silly pillar, can you still stand up again? Aren't you, the god of war in the courtyard, deposed? Grandpa, did you feel good just now? Not to mention, your image is a perfect match for Zhang's, but I don't know how you should tell a big lady. Are you planning to marry Zhang? Su Damao jumped out, not afraid of big things to watch the excitement. Silly Zhu's eyes were wide open, staring fiercely at Su Damao. He remembered to beat Su Damao up, but now he was powerless to stand up. Yang Heping's collision made him feel like all his strength had been drained. Grandpa, I haven't noticed it yet. Your taste is really special. Lu Haizhong stood up with a smile and sneered at Yi Zhonghai. Yan Fugue smiled and didn't speak. Among the three masters in the courtyard, he is the least expressive, silent, and does not hinder his ability to watch the excitement. Cough. Someone coughed twice. The deaf old lady has appeared. She was hiding in the corner to peek, with no intention of coming out. Silly pillar collapsed. Yi Zhonghai suffered losses. If she doesn't come out to oversee the overall situation, the two of them will suffer even greater losses. Haven't you had enough trouble yet? Lu Haizhong, Yan Fugue, as the second and third masters, do you just watch Yang Heping act so mischievous? Yang Heping, as soon as you come back, you've caused a stir in the courtyard house. What exactly do you want to do? Are you specifically here to disrupt the unity of the courtyard house? The deaf old lady is also a skilled moral kidnapper, and as soon as she appears, she gives Yang Heping a big hat that disrupts unity. Everyone looked at Yang Heping with pity. The deaf old lady is in the courtyard, which is the Empress Dowager and the Buddha. When she comes forward, no one dares to disagree, even Zhang dare not act recklessly. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 05. Kicking the silly pillar and slacking the deaf old lady. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who are you? In what capacity are you telling me these things? Yang Heping looked coldly at the deaf old lady. Yang Heping, you're so outrageous. Don't you even know the deaf old lady? She is the ancestor of the courtyard house. The people in all four of our courtyards have to listen to her. You should also respect her, listen to her words, and apologize to your ancestors as soon as possible. Yi Zhonghai stood up, showing a proud smile. He was able to secure his position as an old man, largely relying on a deaf old lady. What he can't handle, as long as the deaf old lady comes forward, he can handle it, just like today's chaotic situation, which he cannot control. Ancestors. Okay. Very good. Yang Heping laughed and applauded. Yi Zhonghai is a bit confused, why applaud? He had a faint sense of unease. Do you know anyone who likes to be other people's ancestors? They are feudal patriarchs, only they like to be others' ancestors and dominate over the laboring masses. Deaf old lady, you claim to be the ancestor of all the people in the courtyard house. Do you want to become a feudal patriarch? Yi Zhonghai, do you support this statement? Do you mean that you two are a team? Are you ready to reverse history together? It seems that I need to report to the street office and arrest you feudal remnants. Before young Heping could finish speaking, Yi Zhonghai was sweating profusely. Feudal patriarchs. To reverse history. The remnants of feudalism. If you put one of these three hats on him, he will definitely face imprisonment. Lu Haizhong and Yan Fugue, who were standing next to Yi Zhonghai just now, quickly moved 3 steps to the side when they heard Yang Heping's words. Keep a distance from Yi Zhonghai. Yang Heping, you can't talk nonsense, Yi Zhonghai argued fiercely. Am I talking nonsense? Didn't you say it yourself? You just said that the deaf old lady is the ancestor of everyone in the courtyard, and everyone should listen to her. Isn't she the feudal patriarch? Yang Heping asked back. Many of the onlookers nodded. Seeing everyone discussing and some nodding, Yi Zhonghai was sweating even harder. What if someone secretly reported to the street office? Cough, Yang Heping, don't deliberately shift the topic. As soon as you came back, you beat Jia Zhang, Jia Dongxu, Silly Zhu, and an old man. With this, you can report to the police and send you to jail. The deaf old lady coughed twice, attracting everyone's attention to her. Alarm. Okay, you go report to the police and see who will be arrested after the patrol investigates thoroughly. Yang Heping is not afraid at all. Do you think someone will testify for you? Yi Zhonghai spoke proudly, completely breaking his face with Yang Heping. Why not? When the patrol arrived, I asked for individual testimony and kept their statements confidential. The patrol promised confidentiality. Did anyone tell the truth? Can you guarantee that no one in the yard hates you? Yang Heping sneered. Yi Zhonghai wants to cover up the sky. Does he have this ability? After listening to Yang Heping's words, Yi Zhonghai's face turned very ugly. Yang Heping's words made sense, and during each confidential interrogation, someone must have told the truth. Lu Haizhong and Yan Fugue glanced at each other, their mouths tightly closed. Yang Heping's killing power is too strong. More ruthless and smarter than before. Yang Heping and Yi Zhonghai engaged in a fight, but they did not participate. The two quietly retreated to the back of the crowd, whispering their opinions. Deaf old lady, I have a few questions to ask you. Back then, were my parents not good to you? There's something delicious thinking of you. I will also buy you clothes during holidays and festivals. How did you repay my parents? You forced our family to the northwest, causing my parents to go downstairs. It's unclear, are you still human? I see you're just a white-eyed wolf. Yang Heping approached the deaf old lady step by step, exuding a chilling chill all over his body. Every time Yang Heping asked, the deaf old lady took a step back. What Yang Heping said, she couldn't deny it either. The old residents in the courtyard knew how kind Yang Heping's parents were to him. The Yang family was really kind to the deaf old lady back then. Some people's hearts are red, some people's hearts are black. The deaf old lady's heart is black. No matter how good she is to her, she is a white-eyed wolf. Unfortunately, only Yang Heping is left. Can he fight against the deaf old lady and her group? Everyone was whispering. There are many sympathizers for Yang Heping, but they dare not confront Yi Zhonghai and can only bury their sympathy in their hearts. Yang Heping, if you dare to speak to the deaf old lady like this, I'll kill you. Silly Zhu's voice echoed behind Yang Heping. He recovered from the severe pain. He wanted to seek revenge, so he quietly came behind Yang Heping and punched him in the back of the head, with a fierce face and exhausted all his strength. Bang! Silly Pillar rushes up faster and flies back faster. Kicked more than 3 meters away by Yang Heping, it hit Jia Dongxu who had just stood up, and both of them fell to the ground without any movement. Zhang is good, didn't she scare you just now? Yang Heping bent down and picked up Zhang, who was a bit panicked. I'm not afraid, I know my dad is beating bad people. They are all bad people, so many people bully my dad. When I grow up, I will protect my dad. Xiao Yueya held Yang Heping's neck. Everyone suspected that their eyes had developed an illusion and instinctively rubbed their eyes. When Yang Heping faced the deaf old lady and others, he was a ruthless killer. When facing Xiao Yueya, he was a loving father. The transition between two extremes made everyone feel very uncomfortable. Silly pillar. The deaf old lady saw the foolish pig fall and there was no movement at all, and she also collapsed softly. If it weren't for a big mother running 2 steps hard and supporting the deaf old lady, she would definitely have fallen very badly, which made Yang Heping feel a bit regretful. How could she not have fallen to her death? Lu Haizhong showed a brilliant smile. Why doesn't the deaf old lady die? If it weren't for the deaf old lady constantly helping Yi Zhonghai, he wouldn't have been constantly suppressed by Yi Zhonghai. After a long time, the deaf old lady recovered. Yang Heping, you're really not behaving properly. As soon as you come back, you are lawless and have injured 4 people in a row. Do you have to make the quadrangle restless in order to be happy? People like you are not worthy of living in a courtyard house. I suggest driving Yang Heping out. The deaf old lady pointed trembling fingers at Yang Heping's nose. Whoosh! Yang Heping didn't get used to her either. Putting down the small moon bud, in front of the deaf old lady who had taken 2 steps, she raised her right hand high and fell heavily. In the disbelief of everyone's eyes, the deaf old lady was slapped down, and 2 yellow teeth with black in them flew out. Everyone was stunned. The ancestor of the courtyard house. A deaf old lady that no one dares to provoke. Surprisingly, someone dared to hit her and even knocked out 2 of her teeth. This is going to be a big deal. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 06. Dog Thing, what is your dog's name? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yang Heping, how dare you hit an old man? Do you have none of the traditional virtues of your ancestors? Are you still not a person? Yi Zhonghai rushed to the deaf old lady with 2 steps, and only breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the deaf old lady's face was only slightly swollen and not a big problem. The deaf old lady is a sea-calming needle. If there were no deaf old lady, who would help him deal with something he couldn't handle again? After being frightened, he angrily accused Yang Heping. Am I hitting a person? Some elderly people are humans, some elderly people are animals, and what I am fighting is an old animal who will repay kindness. Yang Heping gave a cold smile. He has returned. The grudge between the Yang family and the deaf old lady should be settled. Little beast, you. The deaf old lady trembled with anger. Pop. Yang Heping rushed over with 1 step and slapped again. Yi Zhonghai tried to stop, but was directly knocked open by Yang Heping and fell to the ground with a thud. The deaf old lady was also knocked to the ground with a slap, and her cane was thrown away. Indeed, he is still the same young ruthless person as before. It's good if Yang Heping comes back. Can silly Zhu still show off his strength? It's a bit regrettable, Yang Heping may not be able to pass today's level. Yi Zhonghai and the deaf old lady will never let him go. Everyone was discussing, and some people were worried about Yang Heping's fate. But they are powerless, the only thing they can do is to support Yang Heping spiritually. Fortunately, I didn't go out, Lu Haizhong wiped the cold sweat off his head. That's right, why don't we both withdraw first? Yi Zhonghai is not a match for Yang Heping, maybe he will drag us both down. What should we do then? Yan Fugue proposed. He is best at taking advantage, not fighting tough battles, let alone offending a ruthless person like Yang Heping. Let's take a closer look. The situation is not right before we leave. Shaking his head in the bangs, he has always struggled with Yi Zhonghai. Looking at Yi Zhonghai's misfortune, he felt particularly comfortable and wanted to watch for a while longer. At this point, Yi Zhonghai stood up. When he fell just now, his palm hit the ground first, and his palm was scratched, causing a burning pain. Yang Heping, you also have a daughter. If you hit the old man in front of him, are you not afraid that he will also hit you in the future? Do you want to cultivate your daughter into a talent, or do you want to cultivate a female bandit? Yi Zhonghai saw a small moon bud and came up with a solution. Unable to defeat Yang Heping, we can use Siheyuan as a breakthrough. Dad, what is a female bandit? Little Yuya asked curiously. Be good, Dad will tell you later, Yang Heping answered gently, his face covered in frost when he turned around. Yi Zhonghai, dare you say my daughter is a female bandit? It seems that I started lightly just now. I didn't hurt you. Yang Heping leapt up with one swift step, kicked Yi Zhonghai away, and then punched and kicked him like a dog. A middle-aged woman rushed forward and was also slapped down by Yang Heping. During the battle, there were only two types of people in front of him. Enemies and non-enemies, as long as they were labeled as enemies, regardless of gender and age. A big mother is an enemy. If we don't knock her down, will we wait for her to come forward and use the scratching technique? Yang Heping held Yi Zhonghai's collar and dragged him to the front of Siheyuan. Yi Zhonghai, apologize. Yang Heping ordered. Humph. Yi Zhonghai let out a cold snort. Yang Heping smiled, is Yi Zhonghai really a tough guy? He stepped on Yi Zhonghai's right hand and slowly increased his strength. You are a level 8 fighter. If you lose your right hand, guess what serious consequences would there be? Yang Heping's feet became heavier and heavier. I apologize. Xiao Yuya is not a bandit. I'm talking nonsense. Yi Zhonghai's cold sweat flowed. If your right hand is disabled, you won't be able to become a level 8 fighter. All his honors will leave him, and his high income will also leave him. He cannot lose his right hand, but no one can save him. Helpless, he could only choose to apologize. Yang Heping nodded with satisfaction and let go of his right foot. On the back of Yi Zhonghai's right hand, there are clear footprints of Yang Heping. Yi Zhonghai gained freedom, turned around and ran, not forgetting to say a little rabbit while running. Before he could finish speaking, he was kicked down by Yang Heping who was chasing him. Dog thing, what are you calling in front of me? Yang Heping stepped on Yi Zhonghai's neck, crushing his face to the ground. On the ground, there was a pile of feces made by an unknown child, all stained on Yi Zhonghai's face, making him feel nauseous. Lu Haizhong and Yan Fugui glanced at each other, it was so scary. Su Damao shrank his neck, even more terrifying than 5 years ago. Never provoke. Old residents, new residents, looked at Yang Heping with a chill in their eyes. They saw for the first time that someone dared to beat Yi Zhonghai into a dead dog and even trample on him. Some people have a malicious guess, can Yi Zhonghai smell the foul smell of Yang Heping's feet? Lu Haizhong, I see you now. You're the second uncle, are you just looking at me like this? Yi Zhonghai was in a state of desperation. In the past, when holding a general meeting of the entire court, Lu Haizhong was eager to speak and make a name for himself. Why did he wither today? What? I didn't hear it. I have an ear problem and need to go to the hospital for a check-up. Lu Haizhong burst into a cold sweat and suddenly saw the deaf old lady. He came up with a good solution, which was to pretend to be deaf and mute, right? Who wouldn't know? The appearance of the bangs in the middle, teasing a large group of people, this performance is also too poor. Yan Fugui, you. Yi Zhonghai is almost getting angry. I can't rely on Lu Haizhong anymore, I can only find your grandfather Yan Fugui. Halfway through, Yi Zhonghai couldn't continue. Where did Yan Fugue go? I can't find anyone. Young Heping, you are so lawless that I don't believe you dare to kill me. As long as you don't kill me, as soon as you let go of me, I'll call the police. You have committed many evil deeds, the police will definitely arrest you. Yi Zhonghai is at a loss. The deaf old lady is still dizzy and can't hope for anything. Silly Zhu and Jia Dongxu are still unconscious and unable to help. Jia Zhangshi bullied the soft and feared the hard. Although she was clear-headed, she had already run home, closed the door, and hid behind the window to look out. Ha ha ha, it's so funny. Grandpa, you actually want to report to the police. When there was an accident in the courtyard before, you always said that things in the yard would be resolved in the yard. Never report to the police, otherwise it will affect the courtyard's evaluation. Why do you want to call the police now? This is not like you. Young Heping made sarcastic remarks. Everyone nodded one after another, and Yi Zhonghai indeed strictly prohibited everyone from reporting to the police. He once secretly said that whoever dared to report to the police would cause trouble for anyone, causing the informant to run into walls in both the courtyard and the steel rolling mill. Yi Zhonghai's old face turned red. However, this time I support you. Alarm. Be sure to call the police. Wait for the patrol to arrive, look at the bad luck. Yang Heping changed his tone and supported reporting to the police. Yi Zhonghai almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Why are you mocking and supporting the police? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 07. Reporting to the police, animals and animals forming groups to falsely accuse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aren't you afraid of going to jail? Yi Zhonghai retorted with a pale face. You will only be imprisoned. Go call the police. Yang Heping kicked Yi Zhonghai away, causing him to roll all the way until he collided with a wall under the window sill of the Jia family, and finally stopped with a scream. He just wants to make things bigger and give these beasts a lifetime unforgettable memory. Okay, you wait for me. I must send you to jail today, Lu Guangtian. You go report to the police. Yi Zhonghai stood up, feeling sore all over. It hurts when you move. He couldn't have gone to the police in person. Oh, my leg is cramping. Guangfu, please help me quickly. Lu Guangtian was greatly surprised. Who dares to report to the police to catch Yang Heping? They are about the same age as Yang Heping, who is not afraid of Yang Heping. Yi Zhonghai is almost furious, his poor acting skills. He scanned his eyes and saw Yan Jicheng. Oh my stomach hurts. Sorry everyone, I'll go to the restroom first. Yan Jicheng turned around and ran away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Yi Zhonghai feels like vomiting blood. Usually, everyone is not afraid of anything, why would they hesitate to meet Yang Heping? Su Damao, go report to the police. Don't say you have leg cramps or stomach pain. Are you going or not? Yi Zhonghai was really angry. He stared fixedly at Su Damao. Su Damao smiled, even uglier than crying. He asked himself that he couldn't provoke Yang Heping. It can't provoke Yi Zhonghai either. Now that these two people are facing each other, Yi Zhonghai named him to report to the police. He cannot remain neutral and can only choose to offend one of them. Okay, I'll go call the police. Su Damao gritted his teeth. Yi Zhonghai has a deep-rooted influence in the quadrangle courtyard, and also has a certain influence in the steel rolling mill, with enough strength to wear his shoes. Yang Heping is different. He is ruthless, but after all, he has just returned. Su Damao believes that even if Yang Heping is ruthless, he cannot compare to Yi Zhonghai and is likely to be caught, with less threat than Yi Zhonghai. Go and go back quickly, I'm waiting for you. Young Heping smiled brightly and picked up little Yueya. Okay, okay. Su Dumao looked at Young Heping's smile and stuttered a bit. Shouldn't he be angry? Why laugh? Young Heping's abnormal reaction made Su Dumao feel very uneasy. Under the gaze of everyone, Su Dumao felt that he couldn't walk at all. He had just taken 2 steps when he had half his left foot and half his right foot, causing a big somersault. Everyone burst into laughter. Are you scared by Young Heping? Not long after, Su Dumao returned, accompanied by 3 detectives with a serious expression on his face. Who called the police? The patrol leader was a middle-aged man with a solemn expression and bright eyes, who looked like an elite. Middle age announces to take a look at the people present. Many have been injured. At this moment, Silly Zhu also woke up and stood with Yi Zhonghai. Dad. Little Yueya was a bit scared. Ziyueya, be good. Dad just hit a bad guy, and the patrol won't catch Dad. Here, I'll give you another jujube to eat. Young Heping took out another red date. This is a local specialty sent by his comrades when he returned home. He felt sorry for Ziyueya and didn't have any snacks to eat, so he left all for her and didn't eat a single one himself. Xiao Yueya was still a bit worried, holding Young Heping's neck with one hand and taking the big jujube with the other, taking small bites bit by bit. Young Heping's confidence comes from his identity. He is not just an ordinary job transfer, but one with meritorious achievements. When he comes back this time, his work has already been arranged. If he speaks up, it will definitely make the eyes of the beasts in the 4th Academy envious. One by one, they all suffer from red-eye disease. I called the police. I'm Yi Zhonghai, an old man from a courtyard house. I accuse him of disrupting the unity of the quadrangle and of beating others at will. Hurry up and arrest him, such a person should be locked up. As soon as Yi Zhonghai saw the patrol coming, he returned with confidence. He pointed at Young Heping and loudly complained. I testify that what Mr. Yi said is true. Young Heping is not a good person. Before he left 5 years ago, he was a big bad guy, and fighting was a common occurrence. 5 years later, it became even worse. As soon as I entered the hospital, I injured many people, including an old man, before returning home. Lu Haizhong stepped forward to find his presence. He believes that Young Heping is dead. Yan Fugue shook his head slightly. He believed that caution should be exercised and that in the face of ruthless people like Young Heping, he should not express his opinions easily until the dust settles. He remained silent. Patrol comrade, look at him beating me up and vomiting blood. Silly Zhu stood up. And our ancestor of the courtyard house, the deaf old lady, at such an old age, Young Heping can also take action. He is simply a heinous crime. Silly Zhu helped the deaf old lady over again. The deaf old lady with wrinkles all over her face swollen, and some of the wrinkles were stretched out, making her look slightly younger. Just 2 faces, one big and the other small, look a bit strange. Young Heping didn't rush to speak. He just looked at it coldly. He is waiting for all the beasts to jump out and then give another fatal blow. Master Qing Tian, you must make the decision for me. Jia Zhang saw the patrol coming and pushed open the door, crying and howling as she rushed towards the patrol, knocking open the silly pillar in front of him. The 3 detectives frowned slightly, especially the middle-aged patrol leader. As soon as he saw Jia Zhang's style, he knew in his heart that she must be a stubborn shrew. But he is a patrol and cannot look at people with colored glasses. Having a clear idea in mind is enough, it cannot be reflected on the surface or in action. As soon as someone surnamed Yang comes back, he will beat me up without saying a word. Take a look at my son again. I'm such a pitiful old man. He beat me up again just because he stopped him from hitting me. Look at this injury. Jia Zhang pulled Jia Dongxu over and asked the patrol to see clearly. It is indeed a bit tragic. He is simply a bandit. He must be a fugitive, maybe even a murderer. Hurry up and arrest him, shoot him, you can't let him go back to the courtyard and harm us. Zhang glared fiercely at young Heping, his eyes full of malice. Everyone whispered in unison. Zhang is really ruthless, he directly labeled young Heping as a murderer. A cold light flashed in young Heping's eyes. Zhang took 3 steps back and collided with Yi Zhonghai. Yi Zhonghai has an injury on his body, and it no longer hurts just now. I was hit by Zhang, and it hurt again. With a scream, the two of them fell into a ball. Master Qing Tian, do you think he dares to stare at me? He's bullying us orphans and widows. You must catch him. Zhang didn't stand up again and knelt all the way up to the 3 detectives, ready to hug the thigh of the middle-aged inspector. The middle-aged patrol took a step back, with a hint of disgust in his eyes. Zhang's nose was both runny and tearful. Is this preparing to wipe his pants? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 08. Birds in Trouble, Young Heping's End. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Alright, everyone, be quiet. The middle-aged patrol leader, seeing Zhang's constant noise, frowned slightly and had to speak up to stop him. Why is it endless? I won't, if you don't catch him, I'll keep making trouble. Zhang shook her head like a tambourine. As detectives, we cannot arrest people casually. We need to listen to both sides. The middle-aged patrol spoke up and explained. I won't listen, I just won't listen. If young Heping beats someone, you must arrest him. Zhang interrupted the middle-aged patrol. Zhang, please shut up for me. Yi Zhonghai sighed inwardly, what a pig teammate. If you want to send young Heping in, just file a complaint, and if necessary, you can also falsely accuse him. Forcing patrols to arrest people is not a way to send oneself in, is it? Zhang reluctantly shut up. Are you what they called young Heping? Did you call these people? The middle-aged patrol officer asked young Heping in a very gentle tone. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he noticed young Heping. Young Heping is too calm. It doesn't seem like a wrongdoer at all, let alone a criminal. Young Heping also had a special temperament that he recognized immediately. He must have served in the military and was still elite. The probability of committing a crime is extremely low for those who come out of the melting pot. He is more inclined to falsely accuse Zhang and others, especially Zhang, who is not a good person at first glance and even wants to force him to arrest people. I did it, young Heping nodded calmly. Did you call it? The middle-aged patrol was surprised to admit it so easily. Comrade Patrol, you see, he admitted it himself. Combined with the injuries on our bodies, this is the ultimate certainty. Hurry up and arrest him. Our courtyard does not welcome such villains. Yi Zhonghai thought young Heping would deny it, at least in a few words of defense. I didn't expect him to admit it directly. Yi Zhonghai was overjoyed and didn't expect things to go so smoothly. Young Heping is finished. Master Qing Tian, you all heard him. He admitted it himself. Even if I beat this old lady, he must be a fugitive. Don't you guys catch him yet? Zhang's nose was bubbling up, causing the 3 detectives to take a step back without leaving a trace, afraid that she would wipe the snot on her uniform. Not only disgusting. It's still difficult to clean. And me too. Look at these 2 teeth. It was young Heping who slapped it off. I'm already so old, and I'm still a 5 guarantees household. He can even take action. He's so morally corrupt that he doesn't even know how to be a good person. The deaf old lady walked out trembling. She held 2 freshly picked teeth in her hand and accused young Heping of his crimes. Patrol comrades, you have all seen it. A lawless person like him must be arrested, otherwise it will inevitably cause great harm to society and be an unstable factor. Yi Zhonghai is very satisfied with the cooperation of everyone. As long as they work together, they can nail young Heping to death. Everyone whispers in unison. The deaf old lady came forward, and now young Heping is in dire straits. Sigh, I thought young Heping would come back and silly Zhu would be ruined. There's no hope now, he will definitely be locked up. Poor little Yueya, young Heping has been arrested. How can she survive? I don't think so. Young Heping is too calm. He must have a trump card. Maybe when he shows his trump card, the deaf old lady and others will be dumbfounded. Most people are not optimistic about young Heping. After all, Yi Zhonghai and the deaf old lady, combined with the foolish pillar, have dominated the quadrangle for many years, and their influence can be said to be deeply rooted. As the second eldest son in the courtyard, I express myself. People like young Heping are not welcomed in our quadrangle courtyard. We kicked him out, and his house happened to be vacant for those in need. Lu Haizhong believes that in such a major event, there must be his shadow. Yes, give his house to those in need. Our Jia family is a big family, squeezed into a small house, which is too inconvenient. Young Heping's house must be allocated to our Jia family. Jia Zhang's eyes lit up. She has long been interested in the Young family's house. Dad, they are so fierce. Xiao Yueya tightly hugged Young Heping's neck. It's okay, there's Dad around. They are just a bunch of wild dogs barking wildly. Dad will beat them away soon. Young Heping gently patted little Yueya's back and comforted her in a soft voice. A pack of wild dogs. Yi Zhonghai heard it. Jia Zhang and others also heard it. Even the three detectives could hear clearly. Yang's little bunny, you. Jia Zhang pounced with her teeth and claws, revealing 10-pointed nails to give young Heping a blush, which was what she was best at. Bang! Young Heping kicked her over with one kick. Master Qing Tian, you must make decisions for me. The little beast surnamed Yang has beaten people. He dares to beat people in front of you, but he doesn't take you seriously. Hurry up and catch him. Jia Zhang was crying and howling. Shut up, you did it first. I'll give you a kick, it's just for self-defense. Young Heping sneered. He's right. You started with it. To hold accountable is also to hold you accountable. The middle-aged patrolman nodded. I was clearly knocked down. You protect him, you're with him. Jia Zhang began to stir up trouble and pester recklessly. Yi Zhonghai's face changed greatly. He said that the patrol officer Young Heping was hemiplegic, and did Jia Zhang seek death. Jia Zhang, please shut up. Yi Zhonghai decided not to let Jia and Zhang continue their mischief. Otherwise, a good situation will be messed up by her. Patrol comrade, Jia Zhang did not mean it. She was just too excited and spoke recklessly for a moment. I apologize to you on her behalf. Yi Zhonghai signaled to Jia Dongxu to quickly pull Jia Zhang back and not let her cause trouble again. Jia Zhang is not an obedient person. Pop. A stick hit Jia Zhang's arm. It's the cane of a deaf old lady, not heavy, only a little painful. Jia Zhang instantly became honest, knowing that the deaf old lady was warning her. Patrol comrade, you see, we have authentication and physical evidence, and Young Heping himself admitted to hitting someone. Should we take him back now? Dangerous individuals like him, staying in the courtyard is a major safety hazard. Neighbors are always on edge. If something happens, no one can take responsibility. Yi Zhonghai looked proudly at Young Heping and said in his heart, dare to oppose me, dare to hit me. Today, I will send you in and make you cry in the iron window. The middle-aged patrolman nodded. Have you all finished speaking? Young Heping looked at Yi Zhonghai. After speaking, what do you want to do? Yi Zhonghai instinctively took a step back, and Yang Heping's sharp gaze made him feel guilty. Patrol comrades, should you ask me why we should hit them? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 09. Identity exposed, animals scared to death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What are you asking? Yang Heping was wrong when he hit someone. Besides, he hit so many people and hit so hard. Patrol comrade, you better catch him quickly and don't waste your time. Silly Zhu jumped out. He was hit the hardest, even his breathing needs to be careful. When loudly accusing Yang Heping, a layer of cold sweat broke out from his painful head. Is hitting someone wrong? You said it very well. From childhood to adulthood, you haven't beaten Su Damao 1,000 times, there must have been 700 or 800 times. I remember the heaviest time, you took it to the hospital for half a month. Are you wrong? Should we catch it or not? Yang Heping was amused. Anyone can say that hitting someone is wrong, except for silly Zhu. Everyone in the courtyard nodded one after another. Silly Pillar's fight against Su Damao is not an occasional performance, but a daily drama. Unless one of the two is not at home, they will fight twice in 3 days. Are you a silly pillar? I remind you not to hit anyone again in the future. The middle-aged patrol officer heard Yang Heping's words and the voices of the people around him, his face a bit unpleasant, and his impression of silly pillar suddenly changed. He thought he was an honest person when he saw silly Zhu's simple and honest appearance. I didn't expect it to be a violent element. That's what he should do. Stupid Zhu was not convinced. What does it mean to hit? Crime is handled by the police. Making a small mistake, 3 masters in the courtyard criticized education. You're not a law enforcement officer, why are you hitting people? Yang Heping asked a cold geological question. Silly Zhu opened his mouth and tried to defend himself, but couldn't find a suitable reason. His face looked ugly, which made the patrol's impression of him even worse. Cough, Yang Heping, now it's your problem with hitting people. Don't digress from the topic. Yi Zhonghai was very dissatisfied, why did the topic shift again? Silly Zhu, don't hit anyone again in the future, otherwise you will be caught by me sooner or later. Yang Heping, tell me your reasons for hitting someone. The middle-aged patrolman nodded. My reason for beating people is very simple, these people collectively insult martyrs. Yang Heping and Xiao Yue's identity is natural protection. Damn it, martyr. You are another fugitive. The little girl is your illegitimate daughter, and she will definitely be a female fugitive in the future. You two are not good people, why talk about martyrs? Damn it. Zhang had just been honest for a while, but couldn't help but come out and become a demon. Pop. Before Zhang could finish speaking, Yang Heping took action. One slap hit her and she turned around 3 times in place, another slap pulled her over, and then turned around 3 times in place. 3 burnt yellow teeth were knocked out. No one expected Yang Heping to dare to take action. When the reaction came, Zhang's teeth were all knocked off. Stop it, what are you doing? The middle-aged patrol had a good impression of Yang Heping, and only stopped speaking out when they saw him carrying a little girl, without taking any forceful measures. She insulted me as a fugitive. Insulting Xiaoye is a fugitive. She should hit. Yang Heping stopped. Zhang fell with a thud, blinded and sitting on the ground with her eyes straight. Patrol comrades, you have all seen it. Yang Heping has a tendency towards violence, even the elderly and women are not spared. People like him must be arrested as he is an unstable factor. Yi Zhonghai is almost laughing out loud. Yang Heping was beating people in front of the patrol, isn't it seeking death? I agree with Grandpa's words. Violent elements like Yang Heping must be arrested immediately. Guangtian and Guangfu, you two will control him, and it is our duty to assist the patrol. Lu Haizhong is unwilling to compete with Yi Zhonghai for the limelight. Yan Fugui frowned slightly. He discovered a strange phenomenon. From beginning to end, Yang Heping was very calm, including when he just hit someone. He must have a trump card, maybe as soon as he revealed it, he would turn the tide. Yan Fugui believes that it is better not to rush to step forward. He held back again. Prepare to be a simple spectator. Why am I so foolish? Why did I go to the police just now? Yang Heping is so fierce. If he hadn't been caught, my good days would have come to an end. Deaf old lady, Yi Zhonghai, you two must not fall off the chain. You must send Yang Heping in, just consider it as me begging you. Su Dumao's expression was very exciting, and he was scratching his heart with 100 flustered claws. Yang Heping, hitting someone is not right. Unless you can provide a suitable reason, I must take you back. The middle-aged inspector looked at Yang Heping. He is also very annoyed with Jia Zhang, fugitives, illegitimate daughters, and murderers. Can these hats be easily fastened? Who wouldn't be angry if it were someone else? No problem. I hit Jia Zhang because she insulted meritorious officials. If I hadn't retired, I wouldn't have touched her with a single finger, would have shot her with one shot. People like her are not worthy to live in this world. Yang Heping's tone was chilly. A chill emanated from him, causing people near him to shiver. The middle-aged patrol frowned slightly, he was too familiar with this chill. Only by experiencing life and death battles with enemies on the battlefield, experiencing multiple fierce battles, and cutting countless enemies with one's hands, can one accumulate killing energy. A meritorious minister. It's a huge joke. If you can make contributions, the sun can come out from the west. Yi Zhonghai sneered at it. He doesn't believe a single word. Comrade Patrol, Yang Heping has added another charge of impersonating a person of meritorious service. You must thoroughly investigate and never let him go. The deaf old lady viciously suggested. Comrade Patrol, I can prove that I am a meritorious person. Yang Heping said and opened his bag. There was an iron box inside, and he opened it and showed it to 3 detectives. The 3 detectives immediately stood at attention, saluted, and looked very solemn. The salute is over. The middle-aged inspector took the iron box and carefully picked up the military merit badge, while checking the certificate below, his expression serious and showing respect. You actually have first-class merit. The middle-aged patrol officer held the medal and looked at Yang Heping in shock. There is a rhyme circulating in the military about merit. Third-class merit stands and leads. Lie down and receive second-class merit. First-class meritorious family members receive it. The difficulty of achieving first-class merit is too high, and the conditions are too harsh. In most cases, those who have made meritorious contributions have already sacrificed themselves, and only then will their family members take over to receive them. Every first-class hero is highly respected. There is also Zhaya, the daughter of my comrade in arms who sacrificed for the country and entrusted her to me. Yang Heping's eyes turned red. When checking the military merit badge. When introducing oneself. Everyone in the courtyard is not shy. Everyone just found out now. Yang Heping is a first-class hero. Zhaya is a genus of martyrs. Surprised, everyone turned to look at Jia Zhang and the deaf old lady. Yang Heping is right. They insult first-class meritorious officials and the families of martyrs. This is a crime, they will be finished. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Kowtow first, then settle accounts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The crowd gathered around the scene, quietly retreating one by one, distancing themselves from the deaf old lady, Yi Zhonghai, and others, afraid of being implicated by them. What a good thing you've done. The middle-aged patrolman looked at Yi Zhonghai and others, and said the truth in reverse. The anger in his eyes can be seen by anyone who is not blind. Insult meritorious officials. Insulting martyrs' families. What do you want to do? Are you trying to turn the tide when committing crimes in a gang? I think the fight was good, but it was light. Why didn't we kill you all? Yi Zhonghai and others were in a state of fear when they were scolded, all bowing their heads in terror. Not a single one, including Zhang, dared to talk back. Yang Heping looked at them coldly. He doesn't think that the beasts bowing their heads are admitting their mistakes, they are just afraid. The beasts won't admit their mistakes, they will only retaliate even harder. Comrade Yang Heping, I apologize to you for our negligence. We have it all. To the first-class hero, to the martyrs' families, salute. After reprimanding the beasts, the middle-aged patrolman, along with two young patrolmen, once again saluted Yang Heping. Yang Heping returned a standard military salute. The whole body exudes an aura of iron and blood. Zhaya looked at Yang Heping, then at the patrols, and also learned from Yang Heping to perform a military salute, even though she didn't do it very well. Watch the middle-aged patrol salute for the second time. Yi Zhonghai and others are somewhat 60% ownerless. 2 salutes are enough to demonstrate how important Yang Heping's identity is. Middle-aged patrolmen will definitely deal with them severely. If caught, leaving a record will greatly affect their work. Yi Zhonghai glanced at the deaf old lady, who shook her head. She didn't have any good way now. Can I talk to them first? Yang Heping said to the middle-aged patrol. Okay. The middle-aged patrolman nodded. Deaf old lady, Yi Zhonghai, and you people. Your involvement in insulting meritorious officials and martyrs' families is a crime, and it is a serious offense. I now demand that you kowtow and apologize to us. Yang Heping looked coldly at the animals. We cannot have sympathy or be soft on animals. Kowtow first, then settle the accounts. Little rabbit, you. Zhang exploded at the time, apologize. She is used to being unreasonable in the courtyard, and coupled with Yi Zhonghai's deliberate favoritism, when did she apologize to others? Pop. Yang Heping didn't get used to her, and before she finished speaking, he slapped her again. Zhang fell to the ground on the spot. Zhang, you don't know how to repent. You insulted the meritorious officials again in front of the patrol, and the crime is even worse. Do you know that? Yang Heping asked coldly. After Zhang was beaten, he just wanted to throw a tantrum and roll around. Upon hearing Yang Heping's words, I looked at the 3 serious-looking detectives, as if they had been splashed with a basin of cold water and shuddered, afraid to speak. Yi Zhonghai, kowtow and apologize, will you do it or not? Yang Heping chose a breakthrough. Yi Zhonghai is certainly unwilling. It's really embarrassing to kowtow and apologize in public. Where did his old face go when it was rumored? Thinking of Yang Heping's identity and Xiao Yue's identity, he broke out in a cold sweat again. If he didn't agree, he wouldn't be able to pass this hurdle. Okay, I agree. Yi Zhonghai gritted his teeth. He lowered his head, afraid to let Yang Heping see the anger in his eyes. He made up his mind. As long as today passes, we will do everything possible to drive Yang Heping out of the courtyard. I didn't insult you. The deaf old lady was very angry when she saw Yang Heping staring at her again. Why didn't she harm Yang Heping together in the beginning? If we had been more aggressive in the beginning, wouldn't we not have today's sequelae? People say they're old and foolish, I think it's you. You just scolded me, little beast, and forgot so quickly. Don't try to deny it. Everyone present heard it. If you investigate and ask questions individually, do you think they will help you keep it confidential? The consequences of falsifying a certificate are very serious, and we will go in together. You ask them, who is willing to take the risk of going to jail to falsify a certificate for you? Young Heping made sarcastic remarks. Everyone nodded. No one would risk going to jail to provide false evidence. I'm so old now, do you insist on having trouble with an old lady? The deaf old lady had no choice but to pretend to be pitiful. I just mentioned it. Some elderly people live with high moral standards. Some people always refuse to die as thieves. You are the latter type. I will definitely hold you accountable. Kneel down and apologize to Xiao Yueya and me, will you do it or not? Yang Heping asked a cold geological question. The deaf old lady is an inhumane venomous snake, not knowing what gratitude is, and cannot have any mercy towards her. The deaf old lady's face turned pale and she trembled with anger. Who dares to be so unreasonable to her in the courtyard? There is only Yang Heping. Okay, I agree too, the deaf old lady nodded. You guys, I'll ask each other one by one. Whoever doesn't agree, stand up. Yang Heping looked at Silly Zhu and others. Who dares not agree? An old man from a quadrangle, Yi Zhonghai, recognized the fall. The old Buddha in the courtyard, the deaf old lady also surrendered. Both of these people choose to kowtow and apologize, what qualifications do they have to disagree with? Okay, no one opposes, I'll just assume you agree. Now, come and kowtow and apologize. Don't procrastinate, Yi Zhonghai. Let's start with you. You are a master of a courtyard house, let's set an example for these people. Yang Heping stood in front of everyone with a horizontal knife, holding a small crescent bud in his arms. Yi Zhonghai clenched his fists tightly, and due to excessive force, his joints turned white. He moved step by step towards the two of them. Yang Heping, I was wrong. Zhaya, it's my fault. I apologize to you. The volume of Yi Zhonghai is not much higher than that of mosquitoes. Didn't you eat? I can't hear it. Yang Heping will not let him get by. Yi Zhonghai was about to explode with anger, but he could only endure it, take a deep breath, and repeat what he had just said, but with a much higher volume. I barely heard you, kneel down and kowtow. Sigh. Yi Zhonghai let out a long sigh and apologized. Is it still time to kowtow? He knelt down slowly in front of everyone and kowtowed his head. Buzz. The onlookers were boiling with excitement. The master of the courtyard and the 8th level fitter of the steel rolling mill really kowtowed. This is definitely explosive news. After knocking his head, Yi Zhonghai turned around and ran away. He had no face to stay any longer. Yi Zhonghai, stop, the patrol has not yet dealt with all of your results. What are you anxious about? Yang Heping called out to Yi Zhonghai. Yi Zhonghai reacted and stopped urgently. I stopped too quickly and didn't stand firm. I fell to the ground with a loud thud, causing everyone to burst into laughter. Deaf old lady, it's your turn. Yang Heping, Xiao Yueya, it's my mistake. The deaf old lady is quite witty. She knows that the volume is too low, and Yang Heping will definitely let her say it a second time. Kowtow and apologize. With these two people as role models, Jia Zhang and Silly Zhu, among others, all came over to apologize. Okay, very good. But do you think this is over? Yang Heping smiled happily. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.